As we examine the meaning and purpose of our own lives, we might recognize different stages that we appear to go through. There have been arguments from some psychologists and theologians that there are definable stages of human development. Perhaps recognizing some of these stages might help to discern the meaning and purpose of our lives. In psychological terms, it might be argued that human development is a long-term process of psychological growth. It impacts upon the ability to make decisions and discern our direction. In childhood, it is common to follow simplistic ideas about right and wrong, and children learn these. Gradually, they become better at thinking in more abstract terms, and can begin to see a bigger picture. They can also begin to account for anomalies, situations where black and white rules might not apply, and their thinking becomes more flexible. Two psychologists who have framed the debate about moral development are Lawrence Kohlberg and Carol Gilligan. In order to understand the background to their work, we will look back further to Swiss psychologist and philosopher Jean Piaget. Piaget was born in 1896 and died in 1980. He was a firm believer in education of children as a means of the development of society. Piaget believed that children develop moral awareness and knowledge in stages, and that they make moral choices based on their own observations of the world. He believed that peers more than parents have an influence on a child's understanding of morality. Social relationships are very important in his theory of moral development, as children move from being ego-centered to socio-centered as they develop. Whilst Piaget's ideas about the particular steps of child development have been challenged, his overarching principles have been influential in understanding moral development in children. Lawrence Kohlberg, who lived from 1927 to 1987, was an American psychologist who made use of Piaget's theories. With this, he developed a theory of moral behavior, which included the role of responsibility. Kohlberg argued that moral psychology must be concerned with reasons people give for their moral decisions. Kohlberg used Piaget's idea that people develop more sophisticated and flexible thought processes as they understand the world better. Kohlberg outlines 3 levels of moral development, which each have 2 stages. The first is pre-conventional morality, which is self-centered. The first stage is oriented towards obedience and punishment. I will share my toys or I will be in trouble. The second stage is based on exchange, as for example in the biblical, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. I will do the right thing, so I will be rewarded. Level 2 is conventional morality, which is socially centered. The first stage of this is conforming to expectations of those we know, and the second stage is upholding the social order, serving society. Level 3 is post-conventional morality, which is based on reason. The first stage is promoting individuals' rights, and the second stage is developing universal principles. Kohlberg believed that the transition from level 2 to 3 was when a person really began to be thinking about morality. For Kohlberg, an individual progresses from concrete thinking to abstract ideas to universal principles. Carol Gilligan was a student of Kohlberg. She objected that all his studies were male, and that men tend to prioritize the idea of justice. She proposed what she called an ethics of care. As a psychologist with only female patients, Gilligan found that they were focused on relationship rather than rules. She believed that this focus was a moral development beyond rules. Care ethics deals with a particular situation and is a practical approach to making moral decisions. It adds a new level to reasoning and responds in care to the needs of others. It focuses on removing hurt, weighing the consequences in communication with those that the decision will impact upon. The individual does not make the moral decision alone, but in relationship with others who are involved in its consequences. The idea of all parties having a voice is important in her thought. All must be consulted before a decision is made. Gilligan's claims about gender difference have not been evidenced in psychological research. However, she has had an impact on understanding moral development in psychology. It has encouraged others to work cross-gender and cross-culture, and has led to better understanding of well-being. James Fowler was an American theologian who died in 2015. He developed an understanding of the stages of moral development and applied it to an understanding of human faith. The first stage applies to a preschool child's sort of understanding, where fantasy and reality might get mixed up, and beliefs are adopted from parents or others. In the mythic literal stage, people come to understand some of the stories of their faith, but interpret them in a literal way. The third, synthetic conventional stage, is often reached as a teenager, and is an all-encompassing belief system. It often relies on an institution, like a church, for beliefs. People in this stage may have difficulty seeing that they are within a tradition, and difficulty looking outside of their tradition. Many people remain at this stage throughout their lives. The fourth, individuative reflective stage often occurs in young adulthood, when people begin to critically examine their faith. They look outside of their faith for understanding, and may become disillusioned with their faith. At the conjunctive faith stage, people begin to accept mystery as a part of life, and begin to accept paradoxes. The last stage of universalizing faith is rare, and enables people to live without many doubts. Perhaps by understanding that there are different stages to the different aspects of our life, like moral development and spiritual development, we are better able to discern our meaning and purpose in life.